It was a morning that began like any other in the quiet reaches of Eastern Europe. Steel rails stitched together distant cities, and secrets wrote in silence. A Soviet military train, marked only by its cold insignia, pulled out from a shrouded depot, its cargo known only to a handful of commanders somewhere deep inside Moscow. As the engine churned, sending rhythmic echoes across farmland and sleepy towns, no one suspected that this train was about to vanish, not into thin air, but into the waiting shadows of an invisible war. What unfolds next is not a tale of brute force or reckless action. It is a story woven of silence, calculation, and audacity, an operation that would leave the Kremlin perplexed and the world none the wiser. In broad daylight, within view of farmers working the fields and travelers at sleepy stations, this train would cross an invisible boundary. It would slip, for mere hours, from the control of the Soviet Union into the hands of an enemy so nimble their presence would remain undetected even as the train continued its journey. Why would Mossad, the intelligence service of a small Middle Eastern nation, risk a direct confrontation with the hammer of Moscow? What secret cargo could justify such a gamble, and what methods could make the impossible seem routine? Before the dust settles on this quiet sighting, the answer will reshape our understanding of espionage, courage, and the blurred edges of morality. But for now, one train is missing, one world is asleep, and one mystery is waiting to be solved. This is the story of how Mossad hijacked a Soviet train in broad daylight. The Cold War was not simply a clash between two superpowers. It stretched like invisible tentacles into every corner of the globe, and nowhere was this more fraught than the Middle East. For the Soviet Union, Israel was a thorn in the side of their Arab allies and a fragile new nation backed by the West. The battle lines were drawn not just in deserts and cities, but through secret intelligence channels and whispered conversations. Moscow sought to tip the balance of power by arming Syria, Egypt, and other allies with advanced weapons, radar systems, surface-to-air missiles, and tanks designed to blunt Israel's military edge. Israel's survival depended on its ability to outthink and outmaneuver not just armies but intelligence networks far larger and better funded. In the delicate chess game of global espionage, Mossad emerged as a master player, small in size but bold in vision. It became clear that knowledge was power, and ears and eyes inside enemy territory were worth more than tanks or planes. The stakes grew higher as new technologies like radar threatened to erase decades of tactical advantage. If Syria could detect Israeli jets before they struck, the balance of power would shift catastrophically. This was not just a matter of weapons. It was about anticipating the future of warfare, about keeping the skies dark and Israel's planes invisible. So Mossad turned its gaze toward the Soviet Union's own supply lines, seeking a way to strike a precise, surgical blow that would rewrite the rules of engagement. The train was not just any ordinary freight. Its cargo was a harbinger of a new era in warfare, cutting-edge Soviet radar systems destined for Syrian military installations. These radars were designed to see the invisible, to detect aircraft miles before they could strike, effectively grounding the Israeli Air Force's greatest weapon, surprise. For Israel, this was a threat far beyond tanks or infantry. If the radar reach extended, the skies over the region would darken for its pilots, and the strategic advantage painstakingly built over the years could vanish overnight. Mossad's intelligence network had been watching the route and timing of the train for months, decoding radio bursts, tracking supply movements, and intercepting whispers in embassies. Every piece of data painted a picture, the exact day, hour, and location where the train carrying these invaluable technological secrets would pass, rolling through foreign lands on a path seemingly untouchable. It was at this moment that the impossible became an option: to intercept the train, to extract the radar systems, and to return them to Israel, all without a single shot being fired and without the world noticing. But such an operation was unprecedented. To stop a Soviet train on foreign soil in broad daylight meant walking a razor's edge. The risk was immense, the fallout potentially catastrophic. Yet the prize, the future of Israeli air supremacy, was worth every gamble. Inside the quiet rooms of Mossad headquarters, A decision crystallized to hijack the Soviet train in full daylight, not with brute force, but with precision and stealth. This would not be a reckless raid or a firefight. It had to be a flawless operation, blending into the ordinary, the mundane, like a phantom moving unseen in broad daylight. The operatives chosen were not just spies, they were engineers, saboteurs, masters of disguise and deception, trained to walk the line where risk swallows recklessness. False identities were forged, rail technicians, diplomats, even freight inspectors, each role meticulously crafted to blend seamlessly into the environment around the rail yards. Timing was everything. Without modern digital communication or satellite GPS, Mossad operatives relied on intuition, old-school radio codes, and razor-sharp planning to synchronize their movements. Every detail mattered: the angle of the sun, the train's schedule, the habits of security patrols, and the backdrop of a neutral country's silence that masked the operation. The moral weight hung heavy. Facing not only the Soviet military but also foreign sovereignty, capture meant being lost behind the Iron Curtain, erased from memory and history. Yet the gravity of what hung in the balance, Israel's very survival and the fate of future battles, made the impossible tangible. The plan was ready. The players set. The stage was a railway yard cloaked in calm and silence. The day of the operation dawned calm and unremarkable, the kind of morning that hides secrets beneath the quiet hum of routine. The rail yard lay sunlit, birds chirping, and the steady rhythm of life moved forward as though nothing extraordinary was about to unfold. Mossad operatives had positioned themselves with military precision across this seemingly innocuous stretch of track nestled deep within the green countryside of a neutral Eastern European nation. They blended seamlessly into their surroundings, inhabiting roles as maintenance workers, inspectors, or casual onlookers. No alarms rang, no watchful eyes noticed an anomaly. As the distant rumble grew louder, the distinctive sound of steel wheels grinding against rails echoed softly, each click sinking like a heartbeat to the operatives, who counted time in fractions of seconds. This sound was the herald of the Soviet military train approaching, the carriage bearing secret cargo critical to Israel's national security. For the Mossad team, this was the culmination of months of painstaking intelligence and preparation. The tension among them was a low, simmering current beneath stoic faces. In this mission, patience was as much a weapon as any tool. To act prematurely would be to invite disaster. The challenge was immense. Soviet soldiers guarding the train were known far and wide for their unyielding discipline. They were efficient, unrelenting, and famously ruthless to any sign of threat or sabotage. Any misstep by the Mossad team would lead to immediate exposure, and in that unforgiving landscape, capture often meant a grim fate. But the strength of the team lay not in brute force, but in subtlety. Their plan hinged on carefully engineered technical failures, altered signal lights that created a false obstruction, and a track switch discreetly tripped at the precise moment to divert the train onto a siding where the ambush could unfold. To the unsuspecting eyes of the train's crew and station personnel, it appeared as a routine mechanical error, a failure that could happen to any train passing through a complex network of rails. The delicacy of this orchestration was crucial. It disguised a highly orchestrated act beneath the mundane, deflecting suspicion from the operatives and reducing the risk of Soviet alarm. When the train ground to a halt, the air thickened with collective tension. Mossad agents flowed forward with disciplined urgency, hands steady despite the stakes. They boarded the Soviet freight with quiet efficiency, navigating compartments under the watchful gaze of soldiers and curious civilians alike. Not a single moment betrayed hesitation, not a move was wasted. The operatives performed a delicate dance in broad daylight, every second balanced on a razor's edge between triumph and ruin. In those tense minutes, the world seemed to hold its breath. No gunfire shattered the silence, no chaos erupted. Instead, calm resolve guided the Mossad team. They moved with surgical precision, extracting what their mission demanded, an invisible theft executed in plain sight. The atmosphere was electric, every agent aware that they were threading through danger, not with force, but with cunning. For decades, this operation remained a secret testament to the power of covert intelligence. It showcased that the most formidable battles are not always fought with open aggression, but with patience, timing, and the ability to turn everyday moments into moments of extraordinary consequence. The ambush was not merely a seizure. It was a masterclass in stealth, a lesson in how invisibility and discipline could outmatch even the mightiest military machine. A moment later, the world resumed its usual cadence, even while history quietly shifted beneath its feet. What Mossad took was not the whole train, but something far more valuable: the essence of Soviet technological power wrapped inside the radar systems themselves. In the cramped confines of freight cars, engineers and technicians worked with quiet haste, dismantling the electronic heart of the cargo piece by piece. Every screw, wire, and circuit board became a puzzle to be replicated, documented, and understood, all under the pressure of time and the constant threat of discovery. The team's goal was not destruction, but deception. The radar's components were carefully cloned, replaced, and sealed back into place, designed so flawlessly that Soviet technicians downstream would notice nothing amiss. This was espionage at its most refined, an operation not of brute theft, but of subtle erasure and silent replacement. The train would continue its journey, carrying the illusion of intact technology, while Mossad carried away the truth hidden beneath. The psychological strain was immense. Keeping calm amid the ticking clock, the watchful eyes of Soviet soldiers mere steps away, and the knowledge that failure meant more than capture, tested every operator's resolve. Yet movement was steady, controlled, a testament to the unspoken mastery of those who live and breathe in shadows. Weeks passed in uneasy silence as the altered Soviet military train, its cargo now subtly compromised, slipped quietly back into the sprawling network of Soviet supply lines and beyond, continuing its journey to Syria without any outward sign of disruption. The true consequence of this act, however, remained hidden beneath the surface, awaiting discovery only by the sharpest eyes in the hostile heart of Damascus. It was there, in a dimly lit technical room, that Syrian radar technicians began to uncover faint inconsistencies, peculiar anomalies within the system that at first seemed minor, but were deeply perplexing. To ordinary observers, these faults might have appeared as trivial malfunctions or minor defects, glitches lost in the complexity of electronic systems. But to those few who understood the intricacies of Soviet radar technology, the discrepancies were glaring beacons. Circuits subtly altered, signal responses faintly off kilter, timing sequences that did not match the expected templates. These were not accidental errors, but the invisible fingerprints of sabotage, expertly woven. The Mossad's mark, a silent signature stamped on the heart of Syrian defenses. Moscow's reaction was swift but chaotic. Confusion rippled through military and intelligence ranks as they faced the unthinkable. Could their prized technology have been compromised under their very nose? Suspicions arose like specters across the Soviet command. Sabotage was discussed in hushed conversations, espionage was suspected at the highest levels, and whispers of internal betrayal crept like poison through ranks otherwise known for their iron discipline. Yet proof remained elusive. The Soviet Union, with its vast networks of spies and informants, had never encountered an act so quiet, so invisible, yet so potentially devastating. Meanwhile, Syria wrestled with the consequences on the ground. Their state-of-the-art defense system, once regarded as an impregnable shield against Israeli air superiority, faltered unexpectedly during drills and deployments. System instability undermined confidence, creating gaps and vulnerabilities that Israeli intelligence eagerly studied. The very technology meant to protect Syria from air assault became, in its subtle degradation, an Achilles heel that shifted the balance of power in the Middle East's volatile skies. For Mossad, the operation marked an unspoken but profound victory, a turning point carried out in shadows and silence, leaving no immediate fanfare but echoing through subsequent conflicts. The intelligence stolen from that train seeded innovations in Israel's electronic warfare capabilities, enabling their air force to develop sophisticated countermeasures designed to neutralize Syrian radar. This technological edge proved crucial in the skirmishes and wars that followed. where gaining control of the skies often meant the difference between survival and catastrophe. Yet, this mission was not one of trophies or public acclaim. Unlike famous raids or assassinations, it never made headlines, never earned medals or national celebrations. Instead, its impact was a quiet ripple stretching over years, influencing outcomes without ever revealing the hand that shaped them. The audacity of hijacking a Soviet train in broad daylight, without detection or destruction, remains one of Mossad's best-kept secrets, an operation that defies expectations and highlights the blurred line where intelligence gathering becomes a form of warfare. This covert act, so precise and silent, exemplifies a broader truth about espionage during the Cold War and beyond. The most significant blows were often delivered not through firepower, but through knowledge stolen, systems subverted, and trust corrupted. In the realm of international conflict, silence became the loudest weapon, and invisibility the greatest power. Behind every visible battle marched a host of hidden conflicts, wars waged in quiet offices, dark rooms, and fleeting moments of decision, shaping the course of nations long before the first shot was heard. Mossad's hijacking of that train was more than a tactical success. It was a masterclass in the invisible art of war, one that shifted the scales of power in a world teetering on the edge of global confrontation. The legacy of that day remains etched not in monuments, but in the layered history of Middle Eastern conflicts, a reminder of how ingenuity and courage in the shadows can redefine the fate of entire regions. It is a testament to the quiet power of espionage itself, to alter the flow of history without ever being seen, and to strike the deepest chords through silences louder than any gunfire. This operation was more than a single act of espionage. It was a hallmark of Mossad's very nature, an emblem of how this elusive agency operates far beyond what the public eye often imagines. Known for its surgical precision and quiet efficiency, Mossad's missions typically leave no visible trace, no space for public acclaim or historical clarity. They are the unseen hand-guiding events, the ghost in international politics. Mossad's reputation for audacity is matched only by its discipline in invisibility. From its high-profile kidnappings of dangerous enemies to the silent theft of classified documents, the agency thrives on blending into the background. Few know the identities of its operatives, and fewer understand the full scope of their actions. This invisibility is part of its power, allowing Mossad to influence outcomes and shape history without ever stepping fully into the light. The hijacking of the Soviet train neatly fits this secretive template, a mission that relied heavily on intelligence, adaptability, and subtlety rather than brute force or spectacle. It was not a reckless act, but a calculated move in a larger strategy of survival and tactical superiority during a period when visibility was synonymous with vulnerability. Exposure meant annihilation. Discretion was a lifeline. This ethos, this quiet professionalism, has allowed Mossad to punch far above its weight on the global stage. Despite operating from a small country surrounded by hostile powers, Mossad's operations have repeatedly altered geopolitical landscapes in ways that few other intelligence agencies can claim. It has shaped the outcomes of wars, disrupted terrorist networks, and extracted secrets that shifted balances of power. But beneath this cloak of secrecy and operational success lies a profound and enduring question: when does the imperative of national security cross the line into moral ambiguity? The story of Mossad invites reflection on the shadowy dance of statecraft, where agents operate in a world bereft of clear heroes or villains. Instead, there are only actors striving for survival, each decision loaded with risk and consequence, each success shadowed by ethical compromise. Mossad's work compels us to wrestle with uncomfortable truths that intelligence gathering and covert operations often require bending laws and morals, that the line between defense and aggression is blurred, and that the pursuit of security can demand sacrifices not only of others, but of one's own values. The agency's invisible signature is thus one of both brilliance and contradiction, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of danger, but also to the heavy price paid in silence and ambiguity. In understanding Mossad, we gain insight into the darker layers of politics and power, a realm where shadows govern and where survival shapes not just actions but identities. It is a reminder that behind every headline and treaty, behind every diplomatic handshake, there unfolds a hidden world where history is quietly, irrevocably shaped. In the wake of missions like the hijacking of a Soviet train, there exists a shadow world known only to a few. Where agents step into the darkness and vanish without a trace, victories are never toasted publicly, and history itself is quietly rewritten in whispers and shadows. These operations, judged by few and understood by fewer, leave those who carry them out in a liminal space between heroism and anonymity. The men and women who risk everything on these missions often carry their stories alone, their deeds locked away in secret dossiers and classified memories shared within the closest circles. They do not receive parades or medals. Instead, they face the weight of silence and the burden of secrecy. Behind the calm exterior, they must maintain lies a constant tension, knowing their success may have saved millions, but their lives and sacrifices will remain unacknowledged, their personal histories erased. This is the nature of modern statecraft. Especially in the shadowed theaters of the Cold War and beyond, moral clarity dissolves into ambiguity, and the line between right and wrong blurs under the relentless pressure of survival and necessity. Nations often justify actions in the name of security, yet those justifications come at tremendous personal and ethical cost. The invisible battles of the Cold War were fought not just with bullets or bombs, but with secrets, silence, deception, and stealth. These covert operations ripple across generations quietly yet inexorably, shaping the political order, the balance of power, and the course of wars without ever being fully acknowledged. The impact of such actions extends far beyond the immediate tactical gains. They influence trust and enmity, set precedents for future conflicts, and embed moral questions that haunt the actors in their societies. Looking back at Mossad's hijacking of the Soviet train, it becomes clear that this was more than a simple theft or act of espionage. It was a profound gamble with history itself, a forceful intervention into the silent currents shaping a volatile region. The operation accelerated technological advantage, altered the trajectory of subsequent conflicts, and exemplified the lengths a nation will go to ensure its survival. Yet, the price paid beneath the surface is often invisible and incalculable. For each success, there may be personal losses. Agents who vanish into obscurity or are captured and forgotten, relationships fractured by secrecy, and a moral ledger that few dare to examine. The act of hijacking a train, then, is also symbolic of hijacking the course of history, bending it through courage, risk, and sometimes cold calculation. In the end, such missions force us to confront difficult questions. When national security demands such surreptitious courage, how do we reconcile it with ideas of justice and transparency? When survival becomes the overriding imperative, what happens to the values that societies claim to uphold? These reflections do not yield easy answers, but remind us that beneath every headline of war and peace lies a complex web of human choices, sacrifices, and consequences. The silent world where these operatives live is a stark contrast to the visible pageantry of politics and warfare. It is a realm where victories are measured in shadows, and the cost is borne quietly, human lives dedicated to the unseen preservation of a nation's future. This silence is both a shield and a burden, protecting secrets, yes, but also keeping its heroes in the shadows, forever removed from the recognition and understanding they deserve. In that silence, we glimpse the true nature of covert operations, the balance of power maintained not through glory, but through the profound and difficult weight of secrecy. The train's journey did not end with a clash or a confrontation, but with the quiet hum of steel wheels on tracks and a world still unaware of what had passed in plain sight. This is the hidden pulse behind global power, where history is quietly redirected by unseen hands and silent courage. As the dust settled and the passengers carried on, life returned to normal. Fields remained plowed, towns woke for market days, and the world spun onward, untouched by the secret theft of a moment in time. Such is the paradox of espionage. The most explosive acts are often those that leave no visible mark. What can seem ordinary is often the stage for acts that shape nations and destinies. Reflect on this hidden world and what it reveals about the delicate balance between survival, morality, and the unseen forces steering history. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into the covert operations that change our world behind the scenes. Thank you for journeying into the shadows.